Hey everybody, and welcome to the Dynamic Prepper. Well, I've actually been wanting to make this video for quite some time. A video that I think can really help every prepper out there, regardless of where you are on the prepper spectrum, if you will. Whether you're a veteran prepper, or you're new to prepping, or you haven't even started prepping yet, or you're somewhere in the middle and you're not exactly sure where you should go from there. This is a video that I really think could help. It helped me immensely once I really started doing this on a very regular basis, and I think it's something that could help you too. You know, the reason how I came up with wanting to do this video and wanting to actually take some time to get in front of a camera and talk about this in a meaningful way is, back about, well, at the beginning of the year, when I did the big gear giveaway, and to enter that video giveaway, you had to ask me a question that I got asked fairly routinely. One of them I got asked quite a bit, was if I would remake two specific videos. And those two videos were my top 10 skills for preppers video, which I made now a little over 5 years ago, and also my top 10 bug out bag mistakes video. That was the other one. There's a third one in there called the top 10, top 10 ways to start prepping or something like that, that I made probably like 6 or 7 years ago now. These were all videos that I made early on, much earlier in my YouTube career than now, obviously. And the question was that I got at that time was, would you be interested in remaking these videos? You know, between those two videos, top 10 bug out bag mistakes and the top 10 skills for preppers, we're talking well over 1 million views between those two videos. So they're pretty popular. A lot of people that watch my channel have seen them. And so whether or not I would be interested in remaking them, and if my views on those videos have changed at all. And my short answer is no. I believe the content that's in those videos is still very true and still holds firm. I think I would present them in a different way nowadays, but I don't think that I would change like what's in those videos, the core concept and content of them. But then I really got thinking about it over the next couple of months, and I thought to myself, I don't even think I would even do that kind of a video anymore. 5 years later now, where I am in both myself and in my here on YouTube and how I would communicate things with people, I don't even think that I would even do that kind of a video anymore. And here's the reason why. In the top 10 skills for preppers video, I talk a lot about how things like communication is a skill that you need as a prepper. Organization is a skill that you need as a prepper. Being frugal is a skill that you need as a prepper. These are all sort of general skills that we need, and to be honest with you, so do Uber drivers, and so do people who run companies, and so do CEOs, and so do people that run countries. These are common skills that successful people need in order to be successful at just about anything. Now, of course, we as preppers will sort of morph them to fit our needs. We'll talk about them within contexts that fit how we function and think as preppers, but really they are generic. They're too generic to really even start really a meaningful conversation about anything. Yeah, it's true, but then again, as a YouTuber, a lot of us are usually pretty good at communication already. At least, we're not professionals, but at least we're better than, some people. We're pretty good at communication. We can sit down and talk about an idea and pretty effectively. And so it becomes sort of I don't want to say preaching to the choir, but it becomes sort of a redundant topic to talk about when you start talking about those sort of general skills. So where I really wanted to reshift this discussion of really where you want to start thinking about prepping, and as a prepper, where you really want to focus your energy on in the beginning, and as an experienced prepper, where you really want to sort of reset your mindset and really take a serious look at where you are and how you can improve, this is what you got to do. Here it is. So step number one is you need to take inventory. Now, some of us do this on an annual basis. Some people like myself will do this fairly routinely throughout the year. I do cycle counts, so I count through stuff multiple times a year. You can get as techie or low tech with this as you want to. If you're the kind of person that just wants to make a mental note of it, then fine. If you're the type of person that wants to get, a spreadsheet going and all that, that's cool too. But you want to take an inventory. Obviously, how you do that's going to depend on how big your prep is. If you've got a huge prep with a ton of food bedded in, you might want to break it down into sections and do more of a cycle count. But you want to take a look. Okay, well, what do you have for canned food? What do you have for freeze-dried food, prepared meals in the freezer? How much butter do you have? How much salt do you have? These are kinds of things that you want to be looking at, and you want to keep an eye and mark out your expiration dates. So if things are becoming expired or have expired, you rotate them out or get rid of them. Have you used any of your prep? Here in our family, we use our prep pretty routinely, and sometimes we might use some and forget to replace it right away. So it's a good idea to take an inventory every once in a while and just make sure that you have everything that you think you have and that you need. And where is it? Okay, that's the other thing too. Not just figure out what you have, but also where is it? Is it in this box? Is it in that box? Okay, does that make sense? We could talk about organization here, but the big thing is just knowing where everything is. So that's the first step, taking inventory, knowing what you have and where it is. Whether or not you're an experienced prepper and you have a ton of stuff, or whether you're just starting out or maybe just beginning to start out, maybe you haven't even got there yet, this is the part in time when you go around your house and you sort of take an inventory of everything you have. What can you use and what do you need? The next step 2 here, is going to be you need to go through a risk analysis here. Some people call this threat assessment. I consider these two phrases to be used interchangeably. Threat assessment probably has a little bit more of a tactical connotation to it, which I'm fine with. But I usually use the word risk analysis is typically what I use to describe this. So this is the point in time when you really want to sit down and you want to say, okay, what are some things that I'm worried about? Okay. I'm worried about I might lose my job. What am my family going to do if I lose my job? I'm worried about if my wife loses her job. What happens if my wife loses her job? What happens if our house burns down? What happens if a natural disaster happens? And you just kind of start going in, start with those basic ones and you just start taking out, eventually you might get off into the weeds. You might get into some of the things that, what if the sun crashes into the earth? What am I going to do then? Is that covered under my house burning down? Or, so sometimes you're going to get in the weeds, and that's okay. Get off into the weeds. That's fine. That's a fun place to be sometimes. But at the same time, these are the things that you're putting down that you can start working on. Okay. Have things in your life changed? Have you had a kid? That's a big change. It's probably going to change how you think of your risk analysis and threat assessment. A big thing, like for instance, my wife and I, we moved last year, 2017, we moved into a new house. So that has caused us to have to reanalyze or reevaluate our risk assessment for where we live now. And does your preparedness plan need to be updated? If you don't have one, then yes, it definitely needs to be updated. But if you've done one in the past, okay, now how do we move forward with this plan and sort of our new risk assessment and our new inventory that we've done? And that gets us to step number 3, which is to set goals or to set new goals. So here, first off, where are the holes in your prep? What are they? Do you not have butter? Okay, do you not have salt? Okay, they could be simple as that. Or maybe you used some of your prep and you forgot to replace it. So, okay, now we got some holes in our prep. Maybe there are just some areas you haven't gotten to yet, right? Like maybe you haven't gotten to certain aspects of your preparedness that you've been looking to, but you just haven't gotten there yet. Maybe there's some tools for specific tasks you need to get that you just haven't gotten yet. Maybe there are some, maybe you haven't taken your toiletries out 6 months. You're only at 2 months or something like that. It just depends on where you're at as a prepper. Maybe you're just starting out and you're at 0 and you want to get yourself to 2 weeks. You want to get a 2-week prep in. Okay, that's where you should start. That's my goal. I need a 2-week prep. I need to start with food for 2 weeks, toiletries for 2 weeks, water for 2 weeks. These are all the things I need to do for 2 weeks. So that's my first goal. This is my goal. Okay, so that's a good place to start. If you've already there, maybe bringing it out longer. Maybe going from 2 weeks to a month, or from a month to 6 months, or from 6 months to a year, or from a year to 12 years. Whatever the case may be, it's going to be dictated by your situation and your circumstances. But first off, where are the holes in your prep and filling them accordingly? Has your plan changed? Okay, has your preparedness plan changed? Right? Are there things you need to be doing differently? Maybe what you thought you would be 6 months ago is not exactly where you are now. So maybe you need to reassess where I should be in the next 6 months. And of course, the big one here is, what is your end game? What are you prepping for? What's the goal? Now, of course, if you're weird, you can say you're prepping for the zombie apocalypse, but that's not what we're prepping for. This is a common misconception about preppers, that we're prepping for some sort of doomsday thing. And to be honest with you, the vast majority of us are not. We're covering all our bases, trust me. And things can happen, trust me. But when it really comes down to it, what we're prepping for are things like maintaining, a standard of living for our families that we can be successful in. Maybe it's living self-sufficiently. Maybe it's getting rid of that 9-to-5 job that's got you working 50 hours a week and glued to your mortgage, and maybe you want to free yourself of that rat race. So what's your end game? Maybe it's to be able to get rid of that job and go to a place where you're going to be more sustainable. So maybe you have to start looking at things like coming up with alternate sources of revenue for your family. So maybe that's something you want to do in the next 6 months. Maybe start an alternate source of revenue for your family with the expectation that this is the first step to getting rid of this stupid job I have that I don't like and I want to get rid of. Maybe that's your first step. Now, maybe that's going to fail. Or maybe you're only going to make $200 a month off of it. Or maybe it's going to be wildly successful. You don't know until you try it. But maybe it's not just one thing that you're going to replace your income with. Maybe it's 3 or 4 things you might need to start in order to replace your income and do something you want to do. Maybe your big end plan is you want to own a subsistence hobby farm and you want to sell pickled carrots at the farmer's market. That's your gig, right? It's a good call. Maybe that is, okay, that's your end game, right? You want to be the pickled carrot guy at the farmer's market living on a sustainable farm out in the country. So can you maybe like go off and find an organic farmer and give you some carrots or buy some carrots off him? You can kind of start the whole pickle carrot thing up front, and then maybe you can use the income from that to slowly work your way there. Or maybe you just got to, buy the farm, no pun intended, and get in there and start doing it from the ground up. And it's a lot of overhead and it's going to be a big risk, but that's what you're willing to do. Hey, that's all for you too. So what's your end game? What are some things you can start doing now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever. So again, this is not all like zombie apocalypse tactical stuff. Some of this is very much like life planning and financial planning too. That plays a big part of sort of getting yourself to a point where you can be self-sufficient in your living. That has something to do with it too. And of course, we prepare for everything, but there are certain things that we have a lot more control over than other things. And what I usually tell people when they first start prepping especially is, don't lose your mind over the things you don't have control over. Plan for the worst, but control the things that you can affect, like your lifestyle and your income and what you have put away and the life that you want to lead. So those are things we do have influence over, and those are the things that we want to concentrate on improving and making better as we move forward. So again, to recap, take inventory, reevaluate your risks, set goals for the new year. And again, you want to take those out maybe 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years. And then revisit those, every so often. See what kind of progress you're making and revisit those every so often. See if they need to be updated again. So there you go. Remember, if you're just starting out in prepping, the big thing is just take it one step at a time. Don't look at it, the bigger picture. Just start with putting in 2 weeks worth of food into your pantry by buying a few extra things every time you go to the grocery store. If you're an experienced prepper, man, dive into this stuff and really start thinking hard, because this is what really is going to take you from where you're at now to the whole new level of prepping that you probably haven't gotten to yet, or that you want to get to. This is the path to get there. And of course, if you have comments or anything like that you'd like to leave, make sure you drop down in the comment section below. I'd love to have a conversation about this. Maybe we'll turn this into an ongoing topic. So drop down there and let me hear what you have to say about how to make yourself a better prepper and what's important. So there you go. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and check us out on social media. Take it easy, everybody.